Our stream on July 27th had some technical problems. And that's too bad because it was a pretty good session. This is why I decided to skip a little ahead of myself and make my very first Pathfinder recap video. In these videos, I will do a synopsis of our sessions, or full adventures if they can be summarized easily. So if you're one of those people who likes tabletop RPG stories, but think wading through an entire 3 or 4 hour session might be a little intimidating, then these videos are for you. As a side note, I have a backlog of sessions I would like to do these recaps with, so I'll try to number them on YouTube so they go chronologically. Anyway, on to the session. Our heroes emerged from the Fey-touched house, their new friend Mittens in the arms of Adamantine. The trap on the final treasure chest, explosive runes, had been fatal to the catfolk bard. Adam, Dela, and Raceland were deeply saddened and grieving their loss, but they were snapped out of their torpor briefly when, as they stepped out into the street, the door of the house violently slammed shut behind them. Before they could register what happened, an ominous, deep voice echoed gently behind them.
Good. That weird, tooth-loving cretin was becoming a real bother. Thank you for clearing out that little nuisance. It seems a bit of renovation is now in order. I am sure I will see you in the future.
Although the sun had set by now, there were still a fair amount of passerbys on the street who stopped and stared at the group and shuddered at the dark voice they vaguely heard. The party's heads were spinning and their vision blurred, but as they collected themselves, they heard a distant shouting becoming clearer and coming closer. Oh, no. Were you guys in the... Nobody's supposed to go and... Oh, is she... No, wait, please tell me that she's... Why does this have to happen on my watch? A Classisi guard spotted the group and was now standing in front of them, looking frazzled and panicking. I'm in enough trouble without you guys. Okay, I don't care what happened, but we need to get your friend to a church or temple or something. I'll escort you. Where do you need to go? Dela is a paladin for the goddess Shaylin, so the group quickly decided that was probably the best place to go. Upon arrival, the guard grunted and said, There you go, get her taken care of, and not a word of what happened to her, or where, okay? And he stomped off. The Temple of Shaylin in Khalistan is a breathtaking sight. Sculptures and relief art deck the walls, amazing tapestries hang from the ceiling, perfectly arranged flowers decorate the seats, podium, and a delicately carved sepulchre off to the side. An acolyte, upon seeing the deceased catfolk in the arms of the party, immediately ran to fetch the high priest. Others came to the aid of the group and helped to lay Mittens on the sepulchre. Within moments, a shaggy, old, pure white catfolk emerged, his walking assisted by both the acolyte and an amazing ivory white staff. He puttered over to Mittens laid out on the slab and proceeded to silently examine her for a moment. He then spoke.
This one, she was not meant to go quite yet. Too young and cut down before she could pursue her dreams. A tragedy.
He then turned to Dela.
You are a paladin of Shaylin. I thank you for the work you do outside the church.
Dela bowed and thanked the priest.
What would you have us do with your friend? Is she to be laid to rest?
Well, actually, Dela replied, we were thinking of maybe resurrection? Can anyone here do that?
I can,
the high priest replied. Will you?
Yes, but I cannot without an important item. A diamond of value at least 10,000 gold pieces must be consumed in the resurrection ceremony for the spell to be complete. Unfortunately, we do not have such a thing here at the temple. If you scour the trade, you will most likely be able to find what you are searching for. A tithing to the church must also be paid, but then we shall bring your friend back to this realm.
The players agreed, and the high priest told them to come back tomorrow so that he could mem the spell.
This gave the group some time to sell some of their loot and find the diamond they needed. Just before leaving, Dela remembered that she was also missing some teeth, as the Tooth Fairies pulled them and the Tooth Fairy Monarch actually ate them. The old priest looked for an uncomfortably long time into Dela's mouth before announcing,
Yes, I can do that too. Since you crusade for Shaylin, you must tithe only 800 gold pieces instead of the usual 1,250. Shaylin discount after all.
And so the heroes went to the nearest inn and got an uneasy night's sleep, knowing their friend was being cared for at the temple, but specifically being prepped for funerary services if they couldn't find the needed gem. The first night Mittens was at the temple would be comped by the resurrection tithe, but after that they would have to charge for spells, oils, and general dead body storage fees. Since the group just barely had enough gold for the resurrection, taking more than one day could prove disastrous. Waking up the next morning bright and early, Dela and Adam struck out. A side note, our mage couldn't make it to this session, so we decided that Raceland was actually communicating with the school that sent him to Khalistan. Many hours passed as they gained leads as to where they could find a diamond worth 10,000 gold pieces. They went around the Mystic, known for good spell components, and the trade for hours until they finally received a lead on a jeweler near the docks that had recently procured a diamond worth 10,000 and one worth nearly 30k. These are probably the only ones of this price point, even in a huge city like Khalistan, so they rushed to the dealer. They found the shop, and inside, 3 people were behind a counter appraising jewels. The afternoon sun piercing the front windows of the shop caused a dazzling display of color to dance around the interior. This was definitely the place. The appraisers, 2 catfolk and a human, didn't even notice the heroes walk in. Ahem. Dela coughed politely as possible. The Classisi catfolk closest to them looked up and removed his loupe. "Can I help you?" he purred. "Yes, we hear that you have a diamond worth 10,000 gold pieces. I won't lie, we need it to resurrect our friend at the Temple of Shaylin. We've heard that you have one, and I think you may be the only person in Khalistan to actually have what we need." Indeed, the catfolk merchant, named Ven, retrieved an enormous, perfectly faceted diamond from behind the counter. "Shame, really, that such a perfect gem must be destroyed in order to perform the ceremony. But I suppose it is for a greater good, yes?" He squinted at the 2 adventurers for a moment and continued. "For a catfolk bard, I presume. You are doubtless the ones who were in the house near the heights yesterday, yes? Oh, don't look so surprised, my friends. News travels fast in the city." Adam and Dela gave a quick look at each other as Ven saw that his statement may have been a bit embarrassing to his customers, and quickly added, "Oh, no matter. I will sell you this gem for the market value, as it is for a good cause. 10,000 gold, and it is yours." The duo felt relieved, and then emptied their purses to purchase the diamond. But they only had approximately 9,000 gold for the entire group. Panicking slightly, they attempted to barter with Ven, but to no avail. "I am sorry, but this gem is worth 10,000. It was not an easy item to acquire, and I'm being generous letting it go for this price." Then Adam had a wonderful, Grinchy idea. He pulled out the belt. Quick note to those new to our adventures. A while ago, the group found a belt which they identified as a belt of incredible dexterity. It was, in fact, a belt that, when worn, granted a +2 dex bonus, but with a little catch. It was also cursed, so it could not be removed voluntarily. The actual curse? Well, an aspiring comedian of a wizard placed a permanent ghost sound spell on the belt. So, when it was being worn, the back portion would, at completely random intervals, produce a farting sound. Embarrassing, of course, but this could also make infiltration very difficult, as you never knew when the belt would go off. Adam presented the belt. What about this, good sir? A belt that, when worn, increases your dexterity. If we throw this in, perhaps we could make a deal for the diamond? Ven looked at the belt cautiously. Magic, you say? Just a moment, then. Lillian? One of the other appraisers, a slender, silvery-furred catfolk, perked up and set down her work. She rose from her bench and said back, You called, Ven. I wasn't paying attention. What is it that you need? These adventurers claim this belt is magical. Could you please cast Identify on it and tell me what it does? Dela's paladin instincts kicked in. Not only was she worried their ruse would be found out, but her lawful good nature would not allow her to sell off a cursed belt. She quickly formulated a plan. Grabbing the belt from Adam's hands, she exclaimed, no, you don't. Not my belt, you fiend, you. This is my belt. You know that. I won't allow you to sell this. How'd you even get this? For shame, you. Dela shot a look of accusatory anger at Adam, which went mostly unnoticed by Ven. Never mind, Lillian. Apparently there was a miscommunication. After a little shrug, the other catfolk went back to her work. Come back when you have the full amount. I will make sure the diamond stays here, at least for today. Dela tisked at Adam for his audacity, but that made her realize she was still missing 3 of her teeth. The two agreed to split up so that Dela could get her charisma points back. Each missing tooth means -1 charisma. And Adam could try to sell some of the weapons they had to get that last little bit of gold needed to bring their friend back to life. Adam continued through the trade, selling what he could before running dry. Except for 2 items the group did not want to get rid of. First, a throwing axe of return, which when thrown would return to its owner, provided they stayed in the same spot. And second, a strange, sleek weapon known as the Lucius Special Rifle. Now, in Del Key, firearms exist, although they are a bit rare. This particular rifle, however, is extremely rare. Most guns and pistols available to the players use the early firearms rules, but the Lucius Special uses the rules for modern firearms, has a bolt-action receiver, which means it's only a free action to reload, and cannot become broken through misfire. It is also of the utmost craftsmanship, with gorgeous embellishments and perfectly sculpted parts. It is as much deadly weapon as a work of art. It is also an exotic weapon to those who haven't ever seen one before, and the ammunition is very, very limited. Reluctantly, Adam made his way to a dealer of exotic arms, a dwarven shop called Duggan's Specialty Sharp and Pointy. Inside, a surly dwarf sat at a counter, sharpening a blade. He bowed welcome and was presented the axe first.
Fine weapon. Good make.
He looked over the axe as he appraised it. He offered 1,200 gold for it, as it was small in size and he had some halfling and gnome clients who might be interested in the piece. A bit of an argument happened at the table at this point. Sam, Mittens' player, argued that the axe was essentially unlimited ammo and a good fit for Dela, who was herself a gnome. Show him the rifle, Sam insisted. We can't even use it yet, and it only has 12 bullets. I allowed this off the table, Chad, as, honestly, I found it amusing. Plus, the selling of magical and unique items is always a point of contention, so I thought it was better to let them discuss. The argument went back and forth for a bit, until it was finally decided that there was no harm in at least showing the dwarf the rifle, to get it appraised, if nothing else. With a heavy thud, Adam laid the rifle on the counter. The dwarf looked at the gun, running his hands over the embellishments and lifting it to check its sights. As he cocked the bolt, he realized he was holding a genuine article, and he placed it back on the table gently. He sat for a moment, eyes closed and arms crossed. Then he blurted out,
I don't want to know how you came upon this weapon, but I'll give you 8,000 gold for it right now.
This caused another eruption at the table, as "Sell! Don't sell!" was heard from all sides. After a bit, it was finally decided that the axe would go and the rifle would be kept.
Suit yourself,
the old dwarf said, shrugging, and the transaction was complete. With the proper amount of money in hand, Adam raced to the jeweler, who was preparing to close. You made it. Excellent. Thank you so much for your patronage, Ven said as they completed the transaction for the diamond. Adam then made his way to the church, meeting Dela along the way and explaining what happened, what items were sold, and presenting the diamond. They made it to the Temple of Shaylin at roughly 9 p.m. and gave the diamond to the acolytes. The high priest emerged, and the ceremony was performed. Now, this is one of those things I'm sure that most groups do not do, but my groups have always done this. In the rules for any type of bring my character back from the dead spells, it states that the subject's soul must be free and willing to return. If the subject's soul is not willing to return, the spell does not work. My DMs have always asked the player, do you want to return, rather than just assuming. Usually the answer is, of course, yes, and there are no problems. But Sam had been thinking about what a new character might be like during this whole session. She had been thinking a lot about different characters that she would like to play. The ceremony's complete, I said. I turned to Sam. Mittens, you feel a pull from the prime material plane. Do you wish to return to life? Sam sat for a second. I don't know. The others at the table gave a simultaneous "What?" as Sam smiled sheepishly. I kind of hoped I could make a new character, but I also want Mittens back. I don't actually know. And it's my decision, right? I nodded as the other players sat disbelievingly. We'd get our money back, right? Asked Santi and Alex. I shook my head. Nope, that ship sailed. If Mittens doesn't want to return, that's tough titty. The spell simply fails. Sam decided to flip a coin. Heads, she comes back. Tails, spell fails. Everyone sat with bated breath as she used a coin flip app on her phone. She hit the button and gave a coy smile. She slowly turned her phone around. Heads.
The ceremony is complete. Welcome back to life.
Adam, Dela, and Mittens were once again an adventuring party, and Mittens, with a newfound zest for life, wanted nothing more than to get going on a new quest. Mostly so they could make some money. The group was now broke. So off to the job board they went in the middle of the night to see what they could find. They knew they'd have to get some rest tonight, but Mittens couldn't wait to at least see what was available. One particular ad caught their eye, and they agreed that in the morning they would inquire about it. And that is where our next recap will begin.